House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
All right, everybody, Hafaday, and welcome back to House to Home. We got a really good topic for you this week, and it is just Gina Campos from RE/MAX Diamond Realty, Guam, and myself. Liz tending to other business right now. She's making money and she's making people happy. She's making people's dreams come true, certainly. But Gina, you actually passed a rather provocative document on to me relative to, I guess these are new stipulations when it comes to renting out properties to our friends in the military.
Yes. So the Military Housing Office has some of it is not new. Some of it's been on the books for a while, but there are new regulations that I was hoping, Jace, that you could share it with the public.
Absolutely. Here we go.
Yeah, for landlords. So the points of interest to us, to the agents here at RE/MAX Diamond Realty, really starts on items number 9.
Mm-hmm.
All lease agreements must include the following: response time for maintenance issues. And the reason we've tried reaching out to the liaison for the housing office. We've RE/MAX Diamond Realty. Some of us have reached out to people at the Guam Association of Realtors to see what the association can do to reach out to the housing office. In the meantime, what we're being told is, hey, you accept it or you're not going to be able to rent out to military families. And what we want to point out to individual landlords is read the fine print, because if you take a look at this is about your response time. And right now we have a shortage of labor, a shortage of material. There is instances here. And one of the big ones for me is, where it says priority 1. So this is what the housing office has defined as priority 1, no water, no power. But Jace, I've gone without water at my own home for hours and hours because GWA is working on a line. Actually, I've gone overnight because GWA was working on a line.
Yeah, and that's par for the course living on Guam.
Yeah, it is. But these guidelines don't specify any of that. It just says no water, or if you have a water leak, no power, no AC. If the toilet overflows, these items could mean the landlord has to provide, it says, alternative living arrangements, right? At the landlord's expense. And so, what if it's caused by GPA? I mean, for instance, parts of Chalampago were out of power for hours and hours yesterday and the day before. I can see that these parts of the new addendum that's being handed down from the Military Housing Office, I mean, I don't believe people will take advantage of this, but there are some that could, and rightfully so. If a landlord signs off on this, yeah, I mean, they're responsible to provide alternative housing or alternative living arrangements.
Yeah, and then the landlord's going to have to pay to put them up in like a motel at the very least, if not a full-on hotel, or put them in another one of their properties. Yeah, which so I guess your concern is not that these terms are too unreasonable. You're just kind of concerned that it's a little bit vague, right? Because as you've said in the past, and we were just talking last week on this show about reading your contract and understanding the stipulations in your contract. One thing that you and Gina have always said is the notion of force majeure, which is basically like acts of God, right? And as we know, when you live on Guam, you're subject to typhoons every few years. If there's a typhoon, most of us are without water for at least a couple days, and power, and that's not our fault.
And that's a good point. But we actually experience this on a month-to-month basis, even without typhoons.
Right.
There's parts of the island. I mean, we just had a little bit of a rainstorm, and parts of the island were out of power, and parts of, like, I'm in Chalampago, so I know we were out of water in that area. And so, my thing is, it needs to be, yes, I can understand sometimes it is the property that has issues, but the way this is written, it is not clear enough And I think in real estate and in these contracts, it needs to be clear, because if it's not made more clear, it's subject to abuse.
Okay, so now now your concern has been stated, and effectively so. Have you actually reached out to the military and tried to say, can we have an audience with you, and can we like at least work out, some of the particularities of these?
That's always our first attempt. So the answer is yes. We've tried to point out that, we can work within the guidelines of these rules if they were modified. So it would address what the situation is. For instance, in the body of the lease agreement itself, it says that if the pipes are clogged, if the toilet's clogged, and it is because of the tenant's use, because, if you moved in there and the pipes were working fine, and a month later or a year later or 2 years later, it's clogged, that was from someone's use. And obviously the landlord's not living in there, is the tenant. And so, it's the lease says it's the responsibility of the tenant. But now this addendum says the landlord has to respond within an hour of the toilet overflowing, and the landlord may have to provide alternative living arrangement. So it conflicts with the body of the lease, but of course it says, the military addendum will supersede that clause. And I believe it's not reasonable. It needs to be clearly defined.
Now, also, and we are going to try and reach out to the Navy, to their housing office and give them a chance to, respond as well. But I guess final question on this issue is, gosh, we could at least go for an hour with this. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, what we're trying to do is make sure landlords are aware, and that's what we always try to do. The Landlord Tenant Act came out. We brought it to the attention of to the consumers, brought it to the attention of the public. And so that's what we're trying to do here. This information is for the landlords out there that might be renting or are hoping to rent to military families. Read through the fine print. If a housing office allows you to modify the fine print so that it's a little bit more clear, because right now we're saying it's vague. So landlord beware, I guess.
Okay, that was my final question. I kind of brain fart there for a second, but does this retroactively apply to all existing leases, or is this only from leases from this point on?
From this point on, because it's the new addendum. So if it's not signed, I do not believe they could force a landlord to incorporate it into the lease, right? And the Landlord Tenant Act is very clear on that. In order to make new modifications to existing leases, you must give 30 days notice. Right, and that's so fair. The housing office can come out and say, listen, from now on, it needs to apply, even if your lease is already in place. But I believe all they're trying to do is incorporate it into new leases moving forward. So landlords, read the fine print.
Yeah. And this is really interesting. So I'll tell you what, we're going to try and get the Navy on, hopefully maybe next week, if not sooner. So we'll catch up. Stay tuned for this. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. We are not done with this issue. This one's going to be interesting. So thanks for watching, KWIM. We'll see you next time.